Hello and welcome to DDOCast, episode 649, recorded the weekend of September 5th. I'm your host, Patrick. This week's screenshot, Wyjek and Claricana take selfies on the statue in the harbor in the 522nd screenshot of the week. A popular spot to take pictures from. I think I've heard Cordovan mention that he gets a lot of pictures from this spot relative to how many he gets, but this is a nice, unique shot. Little bit different angle, and I like it. We like to talk about Dungeons & Dragons online nearly every weekend. You can catch us through Twitch, YouTube, the DDO forums, iTunes, or from our website at DDOcast.com. DDOcast is hosted by Cyber Ears, the awesome podcast hosting network. And shows are usually available within a few days of recording. The next show will probably be next weekend, and you can stay updated by following us on our social media pages or website, DDOcast.com, with our calendar. On the podcast this week, we got a little bit of game news, an update, 50.3, so a little patch. And then we'll, the back half will be joined by Samius and Voodu, and we'll be talking about update 50 and continuing our review with that. So let's talk about game news. A couple of things to mention. If you are a VIP, be sure to make sure to log in before midnight Eastern on September 5th to claim your Saltmarsh VIP Elixir of Discovery. So if you are listening to this, the recorded or the published version, you may not have a lot of time left, depending on when I can get the show up. So make sure you do that if you haven't already. Like I mentioned, we had update 50 patch 3 this week. It was released on Thursday, September 2nd. And some stuff that was in here. Of note, Radiant Servants Cure Moderate Wounds can now be cast on undead players. Continuing the long history of healing spells that just for whatever reason don't work on undead players. Offhand versatility no longer erroneously drops on death. That'll be good. Another long-running thing of things that don't get turned back on when you come back alive. Items. Legendary items now drop from legendary level quests in Sinister Secret of Saltmarsh instead of their upgradable heroic equivalents. And holy cow, was there much rejoicing. I think we even talked about this a little bit about why did we not just start here, and that this would just be better. So if you want to run the Saltmarsh now, you can just get the legendary items. You don't have to upgrade them or anything. They'll just boom drop. There you go. It does mean that if you want the epic versions, you will have to run the heroic version instead, which is maybe not as good in that regards if you want that level, but I think people mostly like this better. Let's see. Legendary green steel augments now display their descriptions when slotted. Helpful. The binding status was corrected for several items within the Sand of Nectarin. The Sovereign Lightning Strike on accessories now functions correctly. Yay! About time. Let's see. Random loot and Cannon's crafted weapons now have the correct W scaling. Except I guess doesn't sound like they really do. There's another secondary bug that they have to fix. Cleansing rituals now properly work on Web of Chaos items. Having a main hand weapon for a favored soul no longer inadvertently removes certain critical bonuses from your weapons when it's a favored weapon. Such as from the Inquisitive Universal Enhancement Tree. Random things playing together. Crayfish are no longer getting an erroneous damage bonus from strength. Additionally, they should double hit somewhat less frequently. Boy, if you watch DDOCast Splat, the number of times we've commented on how evil crayfish are. So that's good. They also, some general stat mods have been adjusted for vermin, which I believe crayfish are. If you're not aware, vermin are kind of like the bugs, scorpions, spiders, that kind of thing. They typically, even in pen and paper, they typically have more hit points, do a little extra damage relative to other monsters of similar challenge rating. They just don't have any special effects usually, so it's kind of how they balance out. The effective slow trap spell used by some enemies now only lasts for 20 seconds on players. Thank you. They should just stop using the slow trap spell and just use this slow spell, and then you can remove it with haste. But I think they just don't want you to be able to remove it from haste, I guess. I've never liked things that slow you down in general. Skeletons found within the salt marsh are no longer healed by positive energy. Again, healing an undead. Why? We're healing the bad guys and not healing the good guys. Go figure. Reaper mode's Resurrection Ward will no longer be erroneously reapplied in certain situations after a player snaps back to their soulstone. Yay, and also I'll believe it when I see it, repeatedly and for months on end. It feels like that comes and goes anyways. Several optional and bonus chests in the Sands of Nectarine and Vault of Night Adventure packs no longer drop deprecated epic seals, and now drop their appropriate pack upgrade ingredients. Yay. The Fate Spinner has returned to her place within the Salt Marsh Tavern, as well as remaining in her location within the trading hall. Pretty good. And then here's a little bit of a surprise update. The public grouping system has received an update. The system now automatically sets the level range to correspond with the level of the content you are running. In Heroics, the upper level boundary is now the instance level, and the lower boundary is the instance level -3. So, a level 6 quest on Elite, which is instance level 8, will now be open to levels 5 to 8, regardless of the level of the players in the group. This has an upper limit of 19. In Epic levels, the lower level boundary is now 20, regardless of the quest CR. The upper level boundary is the instance level +2, due to Epic levels having an expanded bravery bonus range. So, a level 25 quest on Elite will now always be 20 to 29. This has an upper limit of 30. This is a really great change for the public system. I mean, it now mostly handles bravery bonus correctly. I will note that if you're running a quest on level 20, this will break your bravery streak, or don't break the streak anymore. But you're running a quest on a level 20 quest. The instance level, it should be instance level +1, not +2. But that's pretty close, and in a lot better place. So yay! Might actually use the public option now. So that's great. Let's see. Producer opening. Standing Stone Games is hiring a producer. Jerry actually expanded some details on this. Over the years, they've had numerous producers, but in recent years, as Standing Stone Games, they operated without a formal producer position on the DDO side for quite some time, until they created an associate producer position, which is what Koku Majobo was promoted to after spending years doing general QA work, while also doing some of the roles of a producer. They don't talk about the comings and goings of employees, nor should people here expect announcements from them when people come and go. In this case, Koku Majobo has decided to pursue other interests, and they wish him the best. Additionally, they have been able to turn the associate producer position into a producer position, which they are now hiring for. They don't typically post job openings on the forums, but anyone interested in applying to work for them can figure out where to find available openings at daybreak.games.com/careers, and they'll typically post them from the Standing Stone Games Facebook and Twitter accounts. So if you want to go work at Standing Stone Games as a producer, they're hiring. So, on the bug side, Linabella wrote that he did some digging, and yes, all versions of the heroic, epic, and legendary of the Gem of Many Facets are currently unable to roll into a few of the Vault of Night set bonuses. This has been fixed internally and will be an upcoming patch. He apologized for not looking into this sooner, given that a more in-depth look could have prevented the majority of the confusion. In the future, he promises to do a better job of investigating reports like this. Let's see. That'll take us to bonus days. DDO bonus days bring you a Strength in Numbers weekend. Get plus 5% XP for every member in your party or raid group other than yourself through September 6th. You get an extra day for this because Monday is Labor Day in the U.S. Oh, it's a holiday. Also, VIPs are still getting the plus 15% XP for a total of plus 25% VIP XP through September 8th. So lots of fun with that. Let's see. Sales for the week. The Tensor's weapon box has returned for a limited time. You can get it in the store through September 12th. Double bonus points are also back through September 12th. Sales for the week are Monster Madness. Get 25% off of select monster manuals, Slayer boosts, select pet certificates and tricks, companion and pet renames. All of that is through November 9th, as well as a free secret door defining rod with the coupon code Can't Hide, also through September 6th. Sorry, September 9th. That'll take us to community news. The 438th Chronicle. The spotlights were a new version of the player-made DDO tracker is available, so if you'd like to check out that desktop utility over on the DDO forums, you can. The comment for last week: if your character were a ghost, what would it haunt? I don't know, Standing Stone Games. Try to get the changes that my character wants that'll benefit my character. And also hang out with some fun people. I feel like that's a good place to haunt. Fansite news. We got a shout out for part 1 of our review of Sinister Secret of Saltmarsh. Axel also reviewed Sinister Secret of Saltmarsh. You can check out his review. Let's see. DDO Stream is your first stop to find DDO on Twitch. This week, Doug Glendower goes to the 13th moon and back. Voodoo Spice chats. And it is listed as me and friends running the Isle of Dread tabletop. That is incorrect. That was Evil Beaker running that. Also on Twitch, Skullpriest1210 runs Saltmarsh. Dogor80 gets started. And Benny Bradley lives a Reaper 10 life. And on YouTube, Aaron Thompson runs with a crossbow. Zumago raids and Blue Nexus Gaming gets started. If you are streaming, blogging, drawing, making videos, or whatever involving DDO, make sure to let them know. You can reach them for inclusion in the fansite news by emailing ddo@standingstonegames.com. Let's see. The 439th Chronicle. Aldbar runs all 4 bosses in Litany of the Dead and shows you how. So if you'd like to know how to do those bosses and what to expect, you can check that out. Let's see. The comment for the week. What is the main function of the made-up spell of Catapult Teleport? It's like teleport, only you don't land on the ground. You come in at a catapult-like trajectory, a hyperbolic trajectory. So make sure you bring your Featherfall if you can use that teleport spell. Let's see. DDO Players News talks YouTubing in their latest episode. We got a shout-out for our DDOCast Splat episode this week, or last week. DDO Stream is your first stop to find DDO on Twitch. This week, Brighter Days Ahead enters a temple. Voodoo has coffee and chat, and Brock and friends start a new chapter. Also on Twitch, Faithadros games through a storm. Strim Tom has a new build, and Rough Anna 85 runs a druid. Over on YouTube, the Damsels game once per day. Saba's doing a one quest a day series. Sam's Gurobo gets bonus XP. And Mickey writes about Jarvana 4.0. Check out Mickey's Delirium blog to find out more about that. Don't forget to check out D&D Night on DDO Stream on Sundays at 7 p.m. Eastern. So you can find me there the first 2 weekends, usually. This week should be Rime of the Frost Maiden, and the week after that will be Oracle of War, which I DM in. Also, DDOCast Splat is back-ish. We're playing on Tuesdays for the time being at 5:30 p.m. Pacific time, playing DDO. We're running through Giant Hold right now, and should be kind of doing that for a bit going forward. There might be some days, there's some weeks where we don't get to play or something. My schedule is a little flexy. at the moment, but it's such is life. All right, that'll close out the show. So thanks for listening. Thanks to Samius and Voodu for joining me for a little while back for Update 50's review, which you will hear part 2 of shortly. Thanks to all the folks contributing for DDOCast, and thanks to San Antonio Games and Wizard of the Coast and Cyber Ears for hosting the podcast. If you would like to support the show, you can visit our website at DDOCast.com, or you can support us on Patreon. You can also like and follow and videos and subscribe on Twitch and all that fun stuff. If you have a DDO-themed webpage or you Twitch DDO and you'd like to be featured on our website, you can email us at ddocast@gmail.com. You can also hit us up at ddocast.com for our show notes, MP3s, our calendar, previous shows, and other fun stuff, including various DDO and D&D tabletop adventures, and even some other games occasionally. If you have a comment on this episode, a question you'd like to hear us answer, a topic you'd like to hear us discuss, or you just want to say hi, email us at ddocast@gmail.com, or you can leave a comment. You can also find us on social media. Follow us latest cast updates at DDOCast is the best place. So stay tuned for part 2 of our Update 50 review. For those listening from home, Voodoo is sitting here patiently to talk about something that's related to what he plays.
He can talk again about Radiant Servant, and then I can talk about Shatterkai because I managed to murder myself as a Shatterkai the other day.
Oh, this sounds exciting. Yes, let's talk about Radiant Servant and Shatterkai. We'll start with Radiant Servant. I know, Voodoo, you were playing it. The most I've done with Radiant Servant is I redid my enhancements on my cleric, who is kind of mostly on the bench these days. He comes out occasionally for doing the same raid over and over and over again. But other than that, it was nice to free up some points, right? Like I found myself actually looking at the trades. Oh, I need to spend another 5 points so I can get the capstone out of here. But that was a different experience for that. And then I had these like an extra 10 or 12 points to spend in other trees. But that's as far as I got with it. But Voodoo, I know you were saying that you were playing with it a little more.
Yeah, so I just got to level 30 on a Radiant Servant. I don't have a ton of history with Radiant Servant, so do bear that in mind. But I definitely appreciate that they did free up a lot of points. All the extra turning and mighty turning, all that stuff was really expensive. So it was really awesome. I really like the Cure Moderate Wounds SLA. I definitely think they need to do a little bit more polishing. There's a lot of those consume a turn undead to do, reactive heal, or consume a turn undead to do divine cleansing or whatever, or there's a heal over time. They all make you stop in your tracks when you cast them. They're slow as hell. And I don't really like the fact that they use a turn undead charge, but they're so slow. They really need to be quickenable, or just make the damn thing faster. And don't make it you're running and you literally stop in place and then do your animation and then you continue running. Like, that's terrible. It's terribly frustrating too. So that stuff needs to change. I didn't really like. There wasn't enough in tier 1 to get that I wanted to spend to get me to tier 2. Like when I was heroic leveling, I was like, okay, Wand and Scroll Mastery, cool. I really love Wand and Scroll Mastery during heroic Reaper questing and heroic leveling, but when I get to epics, I get rid of Wand and Scroll Mastery. So once I got to epics and I was specking out of it, there just wasn't enough in tier 1 that I even wanted to spend. So I didn't really like that.
Did you notice in the skill one, the one that's like here +1 to skills or whatever, the third one of that gives you +10 positive spell power?
I don't think I noticed that. I'll have to respec to that. Thank you for mentioning that. I don't think this changed from before, but the whole every 5th positive energy is a super heal. I don't like that. I really wish they would just parse that up into, 1/5 of that applies to every casting instead of every fifth. Well, one viewer on my stream though did say that one way you can use that to your advantage is, that affects your aura and you can
Yeah.
cast, 4 healing spells and get this super aura. But then what am I supposed to do? Not cast healing spells? Because I
I
need to keep
thought
the
with the
super
aura it was ticks. Like each of those ticks counted as one, but I'm not. Maybe that's not correct.
I don't know. I think yeah, I would like to see a little bit more work done. They also need to speed up unyielding sovereignty. That's so painfully slow. I mean, it's so ridiculously slow.
That
You know,
thing's
that
only
that's
good
an
for you raise someone and you clear their death penalties.
that's an oh shit button to
Yeah.
me. And oh shit buttons need to be fast. That is painfully slow.
Yeah.
So please speed that up and speed a bunch of other stuff up too, and get rid of this wonky every fifth healing stuff, and then we can start talking about Radiant Servant again.
I mean, it's better than it was,
Yes.
but fundamentally, the biggest issue I always had with Radiant Servant compared to Favored Soul is Radiant Servant. The aura only goes on you. Favored Soul has an aura that they can put on a point with the healing wall, and it's just so much more useful.
Give me some more turning ability, please, too, because like I have the feat, I have all the past lives, I have the pendant that has all the little bonuses. I'm specced out in the tree, and I still can't turn anything.
Yeah.
So come
No.
on, put some more turn undead stuff in there, please.
No. Samus, anything you want to say about Radiant Servant, or you want to jump into Shader Kai?
I haven't got a chance to play with one yet. I honestly didn't know, but any time they go through and they adjust the points, I feel like it's probably a W. Whether it's a big W or a little W, it doesn't matter. Any kind of forward is good in this case.
Well, tell us about
But
your experience with Shader Kai.
so, for those of you who don't know, I'm like 10 lives away from finishing Samus, right? They're all iconics left. So I wanted to do Shatter Kai, one, to get them out of the way, and two, because they're making these changes. I was really excited. I'd heard things, I didn't look it up, right? I didn't look anything. I'm a person that doesn't like doing other people's work for you unless you're paying me. So like I don't want to be your user test air. I don't want to be your whatever. But I feel like maybe I should revise that a little bit because I think I could have applied some input here to Shatterkai and it would have changed things. For example, it's pretty cool. Like you can pick up a D-Door or a Abundant Leap. Sorry, not a D-Door, Abundant Leap type effects. You can pick up some sneak attack dice, which is really great. Your chain thing, I mostly use it to break boxes, but maybe it's good for some other stuff right now. I don't know. I was on a bow life, which sucks because you can't use your chain with unless it's like a light finessable weapon. So like I see why they made certain decisions, but certain things seem wrong to me. Um Nothing is hidden, right? I think that's what it's called. Is like an absolutely ridiculously powerful ability. Why is it 15 or 16 points deep into the tree compared to some of the other ones that are like way lower, right? Some of the other races with this is much lower, for example. Um by the time you kind of work this out, there's no room for that. And that's a really good and useful ability that I think would make people interested in purchasing this class or this race. Um, but other than that, it's just kind of like this medium homogen of like just generally good things on pretty much everything except for a bow build, which is what I did. Um, so I'm going to tell you a quick story. And this happened on our Patrick, what's your favorite raid? You know what it is. Lord of
Master
Blades.
Artificer or Lord of
Ah, I
Blades?
thought it was Lord of Blades. So Lord of Blades. And I'm just doing bow stuff, right? I'm just doing my things. And I reach over there to hit one of my bow shots at the pillars, just taking out pillars, and I hit that elite ability. Woo! I rocket ship myself off the platform. I just sit there and laugh for like 5 minutes, right? I get back, I get raised. I'm sitting there, I'm taking down the pillars, doing my thing, kiting things around, doing all my things. And then I hit that button, bam, back in the water. So I don't know what to tell you folks, but be really careful with your abundant leap effects, I guess. And having a racial one is really good. I've talked about this lots of times in the past that like a lot of classes and races have access to this type of effect. And every time they have it in the racial tree, I feel like it's a win. It adds
Yeah.
a lot of value to me on a race. This was a race that I only reason I would played it before was to get the lives out of the way. Now I'm actually really looking forward to it. Uh, Here in the next couple of days, I'm going to be TRing Samus into a Shatterkai 2-weapon fighting assassin rogue, and I'm going to see how that plays. And I imagine it's going to feel absolutely insane. Just looking at like the numbers and how things going on, racial sneak attack dice, racial modifiers for kind of sneaking around and spotting things. I don't think you pick up speed. You don't get racial speed while sneaking, do you?
I don't think so, but you can pick you
No.
can pick that up in Rogue if you're doing an
Yeah,
assassin
you pick
too.
that up in another tree. So, like, I think it's going to be absolute gas. I really think that the chains are going to feel much better. Um, and I think, and don't quote me, but I think Stream Tom has put out a video on the Shatterkai and chains just today or yesterday or something. I haven't got a chance
Sounds
to
right.
check it out yet. But I'm kind of excited to try them. I suspect it's going to turn out to be another power that you don't care about very much. You'll use it to like break boxes or whatever like AoE thing that you do, but you'll focus on other areas of the tree. But if there's a chance that it's good, right? Like it could go absolutely insane. It's a triple cleave that uses your weapons abilities. If it's good, it's going to be insane.
I think it's one of those weird. This is one of those weird changes where your mileage is really going to vary depending on your investment in your character. If you're a racial completionist and you have all these racial points, like I feel like these changes are going to be a lot better for a character than for a character that doesn't.
Well, and I'm a big advocate of the iconics on the hardcore server
Mm-hmm.
because I feel like you get an awful lot of bang out of the racial trees for the buck. And so for me, again, this is now potentially a playable hardcore server option as far as I'm concerned. Like,
Just be
it's
careful
a
where you
lot of,
jaunt.
yes, be careful where you jump. Don't take the leap ability, take it off your bar. Only use that in the Titan raid. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I think it's got a lot of really good potential. And even on some of the other classes that you not think that you're going to get that much value out of it, if you are a person with a triple racial or whatever the racials are that you have, like you're not going to feel bad for picking up like 6 more sneak attack dice,
Right.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you're not going to feel bad for picking up like 3 or 4 spot or getting over fear quicker or whatever. Like some of those abilities are really in last hardcore, this would have been bonkers, right? So I feel like certain things are not quite in the right place. I feel like this nothing is hidden. Should comes down. It could be a tier 4 if they wanted, but I feel like it should belong at the tier 2, hidden behind whatever the spot listen one
Yeah.
is. Like I feel like the other racial trees that have it have it. Does that make sense?
It does.
Um, and yeah, I think it's got a lot of really interesting potential, but it's got some real downers looking at it. Like first of all, it's got a you die button, and second of all, you look ugly. I can't. But we did get the crocodile hat, and that might save this race. I love that
You're not one
crocodile
for
hat.
the tackle box look.
No, I'll put that crocodile hat all day long.
Make Shatterkai look cool.
um, yeah, the knockdown from the chain whip is also getting some love in the chat here too. So I have a Shader Kai Assassin Rogue. That's what he's actually been for a long time, but I haven't pulled him off the shelf to do anything with him with the changes. So, but I think I think both of these, it's like these are really small changes. They're not going to make or break the game on. They're not going to drive a lot of people into doing those. But if you're already doing them, I think they're better. They're a lot better.
So I feel like all of the iconics are like premium classes, right?
Mhm.
Premium races, premium classes, whatever. It finally feels like it should be in that category of premium now, as opposed to where it was before, and that was nobody did it.
Right.
I literally had one person that was like they enjoyed the race, and I feel like that's the only person I've ever heard of before the thing. So now I think it's got potential to be good. I think that people can spend quite a few points in the tree and get quite a few payoffs if you're uh, again first life hardcore server and you're into rogues. This has a lot of really good uh, payoffs for you, very easy in the tree. So like, I think it took it from a to use the tier leveling kind of mechanics. It was a C tier or a D tier race before, and now it's probably a B. Like it might even be an A, and that's at least what a premium race should be.
Sure. Yeah. All right, let's talk about the Stat Squish and Monster Rebalance, which was one of the biggest things we got out of this. So, if you don't know what this means, if you live mostly in heroics, basically the gear that was at level 29 plus was scaling to the equivalent of like level 50 something, and they brought it back down to the actual level, so 29, 30, in line with everything else. And then to kind of compensate for that, they reduce monster power, to try to make it so that the goal here was that you have all your gear stat squished, and you feel roughly the same power that you were before. I think that's a pretty good summation of the goal that they were going for. So far, my early returns are they hit it pretty good. It feels I'm not really feeling a whole lot of a difference. In some places like Feywild and Sharn, it's more noticeable because there were more things that got pulled off the monsters. I I do feel like monsters are like when I tend to run an alchemist for doing racial lives, because I find it to be both fun and like across like all the whole level spectrum, pretty an even experience. And it kind of does what I need it to do. And I did feel like monsters with evasion were saving, or kind of in general, specifically like the evasion ones. It felt like they were generally saving less.
The
So
first person that said any sort of DC spellcasting stuff felt better.
um, sure.
I feel like most DC spellcasting type people that I have heard say it still feels probably like 2 or 3 points still out of whack.
Yeah,
But I think that's like probably a per quest type change, or at least
yeah.
a per monster type change, which is something that I was saying before. It's going to take a while for some of these waves to trickle out. But I would say that 95 or so percent of the game feels good.
So here's kind of what I would say to what you're saying. One is I think until we get epic destinies and get those under our belt and get some time with those, I think we're gonna be in this like really weird time frame where we're only halfway there. I think there's gonna be some changes there that are gonna like really help and positively impact the DC casting, even for like from what I'm doing. Um, Here's what I kind of think may be happening. There is the only time I'm really noticing the saves is when they're evading, which typically means that I'm throwing a reflex save at a mob that its best save is a reflex save. And that I think feels a little more doable, a little easier. But I kind of wonder if but I do kind of feel like non-evaders are saving more. So I kind of wonder if like the best save came down more than the not best saves came down for some of these mob types, which might be a more holistic experience for DC casting. So again, like I'm just throwing a bunch of reflex saving throws. I'm not trying to throw crowd control and instant death. Like I'm pretty much exclusively doing make a reflex save, make a reflex save, make a reflex save. And my sense is that mobs in general are saving more, but the ones that are giving me the most problem, the ones that could evade and take no damage, are saving less.
No, I've spent basically my time since the update on that bow build, so I might have to do another DC caster again sooner than later. But I just done one and it felt extremely good, extremely powerful, and people were telling me that I was probably a little bit low still, and these people are telling me that at the top it's still feeling a little bit off. So I don't spend a lot of time living at level 30 like Voodoo and like you do. Um, but I tend to trust these people when they tell me that the numbers are this much off. And that's kind of what I'm hearing. Is it just it feels 10-15% off in the monster's favor most of the time at level 30 plus content.
I do
For
tend
me,
to
leveling up
run.
is well fine.
I do tend to run like more R6 than I do R10.
That might be the difference. I don't
That
know.
yeah, possibly. Voodoo, what's your experience been here?
Honestly, I haven't spent a whole lot of time at level 30 since this change. I did all of Marsh, pretty much the whole thing on R10 when it came out. But you can't do before and after on that, right? Because it's brand
Right.
new. But I can tell you that I don't do a lot of R10s. I'm more of like an R6 to R8 guy. But we went in when we did Salt Marsh, we went in there on R10 and we said, okay, if it feels a little rough, we'll step it down. But we stayed at R10 until we ended up losing somebody for the last couple, and we stepped down to R8. It felt fine. But I have been leveling back. After that I reincarnated, and I just literally got back to 30 yesterday or day before, and I've done like Ravenloft Chain 1, the Harbors, and we did some Feywild today. But I'm not even playing one of my normal builds because I'm playing like the Radiant Servant tank thing. But I'm not a numbers
Yeah.
guy. It feels the same to me.
Yeah, I think it generally feels pretty good, and there's definitely some outliers. Like it's definitely seen some people saying like it's not there, and they seem to be outliers. And I think the two ones that I think is probably the most common there is R10, because I can see Reaper, like the Reaper scaling, hitting you a little bit harder. But most of the folks that I know that are typically doing R10s doesn't seem to be slowing them down too much. But I think the other one is if you're doing more of a solo play style. So if you're trying to do a lot more by yourself, I think you will notice these changes more, if that makes sense.
Well, tell you, I try to throw an LFM up when I play, right? But I fill out puggers relatively often. But I do spend an awful lot of time doing quests on my own because not a lot of people level through epic levels through quests. The explore zones have kind of become the new default for like these big batches of experience. So you don't get a lot of people that are interested in, whatever. Um, and I don't know. I felt an awful lot of me saying this doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel the best. It doesn't feel great. But I was on a weird build lately, right? Like the bow build feels different. JavaBot's Bard Force Blade thing feels different. But I feel like I say that a lot lately, like since the update. Like it just doesn't quite feel right. And again, that might be exactly what you're saying with it as a soloer person, it feels different. Um, but I can also tell you that there's quests out there that are just still not fixed. I'm trying to think what quest we were
Oh.
in.
I know I
And
saw
every
Tempest
single
Spine isn't fixed.
yeah, that one maybe. There was something else. But we were in it. We're just on Reaper 1 and just like some random trash mob was doing 2,000 points of damage a hit.
Nice.
And it was like, it just took us all by I mean, it almost killed us all. But it also just took us all by a big surprise. Like, why is this thing doing that much damage? Well, it probably just got missed, right? And our previous PRR and MMR and stats and yada yada yada. So like that probably should have hit us for like 400 or 500 maybe, and instead it just was one-shotting people. So there's going to be some issues. It's going to take a while. Try to report them. Try not to be super negative on them. Realize it's a situation of change, and that after a couple of updates and a couple of patches, hopefully all the big outliers will be fixed, and you'll just find the occasional mistake that lasts for years and years.
Yeah, so we're getting Kunatar in the chat saying he's a single life pure wizard for years. He's at -8 intelligence, -600 mana, and -11 DCs in all schools. Yeah, I mean that seems to be in line with a lot of what I mean here. Those numbers seem to be about right. Again, like I kind of wonder if because I tend to run in kind of a mixed group party. And when you do that, you definitely get into the situations where, oh, this thing is really, I can't kill this thing because it has evasion. Well, the barbarian can, and he has no problem killing the thing with fewer hit points, right? So I kind of wonder, like, my sense is that the soloists are the ones that are feeling this the most. That's what I'm kind of seeing from comments and stuff. Like, those are the people who are mostly saying, I feel like I've been whacked with the Nerf bat really hard. The people that I know that tend to run in groups and a full party do not seem to notice or care that this happened. And I'm not sure how you fix that. And you know, some of the mileage also varies, right? Like I know a few people who comment about like how it feels like, well, I can't solo Reaper 6 anymore because they changed. I'm like, is soloing Reaper 6 really supposed to be something you're supposed to be able to do? Question mark to start with. I mean, if you have been, power to you, right? That's great. That's really impressive. Like, I'm not trying to knock that, but I also know that that's not really my understanding of the intended design goal. So I don't really know where
It's
to
certainly a
land
litmus
that.
test,
Sure.
right? Like there's lives that I've leveled up doing quests randomly at Reaper 6 or whatever just for giggles and got through them, but that's certainly not the intended method, right? So if you're complaining that something was capable before, now it's readjusted slightly below, like maybe you should consider where the devs intend you to be. If you had a player in a pen and paper game that you accidentally gave a overly powerful magic item to or something, you would correct that, right?
Hopefully.
So,
I think there is too, like, I think we're coming from a place of like being a little overpowered in some places relative to other things. So when you come down and they come down too, but now you're kind of more in line, there may be some, and we just kind of threw something out here for someone in the chat. Voodu and I did. Like your strategy might need to change, right? Like if you've been just like hammering the round peg through the square hole because you're that powerful, you know, and now you need to do something different, you know, like that can color some of that experience. But yeah, so I feel this is a weird one for me. Like I feel like it's partially incomplete because I don't think it's done because we don't have the Epic Destinies done, and I think that's going to add some power back in. Like I think I'm pretty confident the Epic Destinies are going to boost in power. Like we're going to get more power out of Epic Destinies, at least at the top level, right? Probably not at level 20 to 23, right? Like when we have you can't get all the way to the top of the tree or whatever. So I think there might be some power might come back in there. That's kind of what I'm expecting to happen. But I think the biggest thing that I'm seeing is it's people soloing at that end game. at that 29-30 range where the stat squish happened, that's where I'm seeing the people saying, this feels terrible. I hate this. But that's not me. Like, I don't do that.
Yeah, I think that's just going to be more that those waves getting smoothed out. I don't think there's anything we can do to speed that up. I don't think the devs can speed it up. I think it's
No.
it's going to be reports. It's going to be time. It's going to be trying not to be negative so report actually gets heard as opposed to just gets thrown in the trash can filing cabinet, right? So like, got to take your time and think these kind of things through, and it does that, and it's going to take a while. These are, I again, my biggest concern was how many of these things are going to slip through the cracks. It doesn't sound like it's nearly as many as it could have been.
Mm-hmm.
Like, to me, that's a positive thing. I think they caught a lot of it, and we're just gonna have to weed things out a little bit. Again, I think spellcasting DCs were need a little bit of tweaking before. Maybe this is gonna work. Maybe people are cool with the way that the Epic Destiny. I still have a problem with it overall, with the idea of like changing the most popular system in Dungeons and Dragons and replacing it with a brand new thing pulled out of the box. But that's fine. I appreciate the vision that you have, and I'm inspired by the fact that they are so passionate about the vision that they have. Um, but man, it seems like a sketchy motherfucking idea for me. Apologies.
It's okay. Yeah, the solo DCs, right? That's a tricky one. I mean, DCs are just such a binary system and an additive and subtractive game is just such a weird thing in general that we've talked about a lot. I don't think we really need to rehash here, but I think it's, in summary, I think it's a good step. I think once we get EDs in the landscape, probably October, late Octoberish is kind of what I'm expecting. I think we're gonna have to reevaluate, right? Like, and until then, I think in some ways we're gonna have to kind of suck it up a little bit. Which I know for those DC solo casters, like that's not great. So
Well, on the other hand, though, they provided us an opportunity to like strengthen things off again. Hirelings are in a good spot, in my opinion, right now. All things considered, with the stat squish, I feel like they're a little bit tougher than they were. They seem to be lasting a little bit longer. They're doing a little bit more work. I'm making that stupid level 3 frog do all sorts of content that it has no right to be able to do. Right? So like, you can be creative and fix these problems. You just have to decide if that's what you have. Do you have an opportunity to do something fun and exciting, or is it a problem that takes away from your fun?
yeah,
It's all how you decide to frame that problem. And I'm trying my best to keep it as a fun challenge for myself, as opposed to this is something that's going to drive me from the game. I don't think it's that at all. And it's just going to take some time to kind of work these things through. Every time I took a 2,000 point hit out of nowhere, I was like, oh, well, shows me, like it's just a thing that's going to happen.
yeah. Well, let's talk about loot. So we'll throw on the new Saltmarsh loot here, and then fixing all of the. I don't want to say fixing. That's a bad word. Changing all of the scroll seal shard epic crafting system and redoing all of that loot.
I feel like that is a good change. It's a positive change with some mechanical flaws that really hurt the system now, but going forward will not be a big deal. To clarify, turning in your stuff is trash.
Pro tip with that: if you try to turn in the stuff from the same pack, the same type in the same pack, so seals from the carnival, turn all those in at the same time, it doesn't reset the crafting UI as often, and it's a little easier to get through it. But
if we do this really complicated sorting thing that it doesn't do for us, we can sometimes make it slightly better.
Yeah.
These are things that they need to fix. These are the shortcomings that should be thought of and taken care of in advance. Like they knew that people were going to turn in 10 million of these stupid things. They should have adjusted the system for that. I'm sorry. This is one of those things that really pisses me off. Voodoo's just smiling. I'll be quiet.
Yeah, I had 17 pages of scroll seals and shards, and I just did it in bite-sized chunks. I mean, I didn't do I still have a page or so of scrolls. I think I still have a page of shards, but I pretty much, I've turned in 80 to 90% of it. Yeah, I mean, if you sit there and you think you're going to do it all in one night, it's going to be hella frustrating and tedious. But just for me, it was the kind of thing like, I've got 20 minutes, before I want to log off. I don't feel like running a quest. I'll go crunch some seals. It's a one-time thing, whatever. It was tedious, but and you're probably going to sit there and get Stewie angry about it if you sit there and try to do it all at once if you have 20 pages of this nonsense.
I did it all at
Even
once,
that,
but I
I
was
feel
watching
like
TV at the same time.
There you go.
I feel like I still haven't cleaned up all the stuff from the stupid old elemental crafting system. I found some stuff with that floating around just the other day. Like this is just they should have had a better system for this, I think, for these mass dumping and cleaning up of these.
Well, I think this is where you were talking earlier about is all of this work that they're doing and redoing the loot, this scroll seal shard loot, taking away from the content. I would say no, it's not taking away the content, but it does take away from what you're talking about, right? They're doing all this work on the loot, but so they don't have time to do anything to make that more convenient and more easy to deal with.
Those are the things that are going to separate the game from other games. It's going to be
Mhm.
these little polishes that seem, for whatever reason, and I hate to harp on them because I feel like I really do, where they don't think through these problems or these mechanics all the way. It's the same thing with the TR cache. It's the same thing with this. They didn't have somebody sit there and go, just do this. Like, do this. Tell us what's wrong with it. This is a nightmare. Like, who did it? Somebody
Yeah.
had to do it, but nobody went over to Lamania, generated 10,000 tokens or whatever, and sat there and clicked the turn in button to see how it worked. Somebody should have. Somebody should have known how that was going to function.
I just want to
Right?
add, did you if you put multiples in of something, did you change the number to do the multiples of that thing?
Yeah,
Okay,
every time.
I just wanted to check. Because
That's how I do it.
I
would
did
grab the
like
thing.
3 or 4 things before I realized, oh, I can change the number.
Nope, I would empty a tab or two full of stuff, right? I would go, oh, what is it? Put over there. There's 30 of these. 30. Brr, 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 brr. And I'd look over here and I'd watch whoever was streaming, whether it's Voodoo or Strimtom or you or whoever. And I would go like this. And I'd be like, oh, sweet, the next one. And the UI would break. And then I would close it. And I would reopen it. Pick the next thing. And I did that for like an hour. And I'm not even like a third of the way through. And I just want to shoot myself. It's the worst.
Were you doing
Now,
it with a lot of
in
other
case you
people
didn't
around?
notice, you can put a big number. I just put 999 in there and then just kept refilling it. Sometimes I'd have to re-click if it was from a different pack, but
I felt like every single time that I tried to reuse it, it broke. If I
really?
put in 999 and I try to fill it up again, if it was from the same pack, a different pack, whatever, it broke. And
I think I noticed something like that.
every
Like
single time I had to close the UI and reopen.
when there was 10 people standing around, it seemed to be a little bit more problematic for me. But if it was just, me and a couple other people there, it seemed to be all right.
Well, Chad's telling me they were able to do it all at once. Maybe it's just me. Again, I do have a lot of this junk from numerous years. I felt like I tried it at 2 or 3 different times, before and after streams, etc. Like, I tend to start around 11. Voodoo starts like at 9 my time, I think. So I can usually watch a little bit of Voodoo. I do like maintenance type work and stuff like this, but it was terrible.
That's interesting. I did not have that as a consistent problem. It definitely happened to me a few times, but it didn't have it as a consistent problem.
Every single time.
Interesting. So the experience aside, what did you guys think about the loot changes, the values, and the new gear? And
It's not what I would have done, but I think it's good.
I think we have a massive injection of level 20 viable loot and level 30 viable loot, and I think that's amazing.
my brain is still broken from this. Like I still can't process like how much more loot there is to consider as part of like what I can gear up.
The thing is that you needed it, and you needed it in a way that I don't think was realized how badly before, because the power level of Sharn, we consistently talk about it,
Mm-hmm.
but it was so good. You just wore it to 29, and then you put on your bigger version of Sharn. Like, it was that good. So you needed this loot to compete and be like, maybe I could give it my Sharn bonus for this. Maybe I could do it. Maybe I can patch together something else instead. Because everything else just paled in comparison. Now there's options again, and more options are always better in my opinion. This
It,
is another win.
this might be a bad hot take, but my kind of hot take with the loot in regards to that is I'm not really going to change anything at the level 20 ish range just so I don't have to hold more stuff in my DR cache. And I don't think it's
Well,
going to be that much more powerful, but
I
that
think a
could be
lot of
completely
these
wrong.
things are bound to account, right? So that
Yeah.
gives it a little bit of advantage, right? I'm not corrupt. I'm not wrong, am I?
Well, a lot of it went from like the non raid loot versions went from bound to character to bound to account, which is great. Love that.
Right. Yeah, that's what I was thinking of. So a lot of that stuff being bound to account now helps in that regard a little bit. The fact that a lot of us are going to have so much of this stuff laying around, if it's not a raid item, uh, you could use it for a while, a couple of lives, and throw it in the garbage. I
Yeah.
think you'll be fine. Like, I just don't think that like there's a overabundance of those materials probably from the average person playing forever. Um, but this is what I will also say. I have now also had a bunch of people tell me that they wish they could give stuff away because they have new people that didn't do this content, right? Because it was old, stale content and there was no reason to do it. So they just never got around to doing this stuff. Now they would like to have that gear where these other people, they've been doing it for ages. So they just have piles that they can't give to anybody.
You can give them the scrolls before you crunch them.
That would be it. That would be the only way. So I kind of would like to have seen a way to make this uh, more shareable, maybe.
Sure.
So it kind of helps out as a little bit of currency. I don't, to me, that's not something that subtracts enough from it at the end of the day that I would say that's a problem. But I did see comments of people talking about stuff like that.
I think that's SSG adding value to older packs. I think that's good for them. If that encourages some people to buy Sands of Manectran that didn't have Sands of Manectran, then good.
Or even if you had it, go run it more.
Well, that's part of it is getting people to run it. But also, I feel like there's been a lot of comments specifically lately made from the company about wanting to, uh, I'm going to call it lessen the walls between the haves and the have-nots.
Mm-hmm.
That's not necessarily what's been said, but that's kind of the general theme, with some of the stuff that I call pie in the sky wishing that has come out of SSG lately. And I feel like this was an opportunity that they could have done that, right? You could have created an opportunity to lessen the wall between the haves and the have-nots here, but you didn't.
Be careful. You might be. You're only about 2 steps away from pitching an idea of a new wish of inheritance where you can make something that's bound to character or bound to account, not bound, and trade it once until it gets equipped.
I, it doesn't sound like a bad plan to me as long as it's not $100.
Oh,
If
I'm
it's
sure it'll be fine.
$5, if it's $7, I'll buy it. $7.
I'd like to give special props to SSG for making their Epic Ring of Spell Storing accessible to so many players
Yeah.
now, whereas that item was like ridiculously rare before. And also special mentions to like Epic Sword of Shadows and Epic Wolf Whistle items that people wanted for so long, and now so many more people will be able to get that stuff, and I think that's great. And SSG, has been so loath to add new spell point clicky items to the game, because it cuts into their spell point pot sales in the store. So I was really shocked that they made the Epic Ring of Spell Storing so easily available, and I think that's really awesome.
Yeah, it's super nice to have. And along with that, let's briefly mention here like the raid runes for Demon Queen and Vault of Night. And I don't know if they're in Chronoscope. I haven't actually run Chronoscope since it changed. Or since these changes happened. So I don't know if there's raid runes in Chronoscope, although I'm not really sure it needs raid runes in Chronoscope. Like those items are pretty accessible anyways. But having raid runes for those, at least Demon Queen and Vault of Night, awesome change, right? So much better for everybody. Love that change. I will say when we're talking about loot, like the numbers all seem fine. It seems like the gear. The thing that's really weird about thinking about like the new gear from Saltmarsh is you're talking about level 3, level 20, and level 30 gear. And at level 3, it's like I don't care, whatever. Like, okay, it looks like I'm gonna be wearing some of those pieces occasionally, but I get through those levels so fast. I don't really care too much about what's there, as long as it's not like if it's better than Ravenloft gear. Okay, now we've got a problem, but it's not. Level 20 and level 30, there's so much gear in those spaces now. I mean, there's literally 8 packs worth of gear just added to level 30. I mean, less the Sands one, which isn't actually there yet. But that's a ton of gear. So it makes it, like I said, my brain still can't just process that amount of gear.
Melt everyone's brain, figure out the new end game, so I have time to get up there and look like I know what I'm doing. I mean, I think it's genius.
I mean, it gives so much more options, which is great, and I love that. And the Saltmarsh stuff seems to fit in that space, and I'm seeing a lot of people using. I'm seeing more variations of here's the gear that we're using, which is pretty awesome. I like that.
Yeah, it is kind of weird when you run around and you see like 4 versions of you, right?
Yeah.
Because you crunch the numbers and do it, and then everybody else is also crunch the numbers and come up with the same conclusions. Now you can mix and match, and you definitely come out with your own particular variations very easily.
Samus, plug your stuff, man.
Well, I stream Monday through Friday at least over on twitch.tv and youtube.com/SamusGarobo, SAMIUSGUROBO. Not just Dungeons and Dragons, but we're going to start breaking out the variety a whole lot more here. Both basically Thursdays and Fridays. We're going to be doing a little bit more variety. So Dungeons and Dragons will be Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. And we're probably going to adjust our hours a little bit more as well to ironically compete with Voodoo, because I'm not allowed to sleep more than 4 hours a night. So apparently he just passed it on to me, guys. That's what I'm saying. Right now, Voodoo cursed me with no sleep on the internet. You should come sub me instead. That's what I hear. That's what I'm saying.
Voodoo, you want to plug your stuff?
You can find over 1,000 DDO videos on my YouTube channel. Quest walkthroughs, raid guides, crafting tutorials, and so much more. You can catch me live streaming nearly every day on Twitch channel Voodoo Spice. We do a morning show that we call Good Morning Coffee and Chat, where we wake up together, drink coffee, and talk about DDO and play the game a little bit too.
Well, thanks, guys, for joining us today. If you'd like to support the show, you can visit our website, DDOCast.com, or you can support us on Patreon. You can also find show notes, past shows, and more on our website. You can also find us on social media and follow us for the latest cast updates. I'm at DDOCast on Twitter. That's the best place to find me. If you'd like to join the discussion, you can leave a comment or email us at DDOCast@gmail.com. So until next time, may all your attack rolls be crits, all your chests level appropriate, have fun, and don't forget to gather for butts.